Okay, so you want to own a casino. Thousands of square feet of flashing lights, a poker room full of action, slot machines running around the clock, high rollers dropping six figures at the baccarat table, and a cage full of cash that never seems to stop moving. You picture the house always wins. You picture a money machine. That's what movies sell you. That's what the word casino conjures up every single time. Here's what nobody tells you about that picture. On the Las Vegas Strip, gaming revenue, all of it, every table, every slot, every hand of blackjack, made up just 26.1% of total Strip revenue in the most recent fiscal year. That marks the 27th consecutive year in which gambling accounted for less than half of what these buildings actually earn, 27 years in a row. And I'll tell you what makes up the rest in a minute, because it changes everything you think you know about this business. This video is about the real economics of owning a casino, the hidden math, the whale dynamics, and the psychological engineering that make the whole thing work. Most people think casinos are gambling businesses. They're not. And by the end of this, you'll understand exactly what they are, why the house edge is actually negotiable, and what one man's losing streak once did to an entire public company's quarterly earnings report. Let's start with the thing that surprises almost everyone. The casino floor is not the business. It's the bait. Non-gaming operations, hotel rooms, food and beverage, entertainment drove nearly 74% of Strip revenue. Room revenue alone came in at $7.1 billion. Food revenue reached $3.99 billion, and beverage revenue totaled $1.58 billion. So when you walk into a major Las Vegas resort, the gambling floor you're standing on is essentially a very expensive piece of marketing. It fills the hotel, it fills the restaurants, it fills the bars. The tables and slots exist largely to give people a reason to book a room, order a $60 steak, and stay another night. The business model is closer to a luxury real estate and hospitality company than anything you picture when you hear the word casino. The gambling is the anchor tenant, like a big box store in a mall that pulls foot traffic for everything else around it. Strip casinos understand this better than anyone, which is why they've spent the last 2 decades building concert venues, Michelin star restaurants, and nightclubs that charge $500 cover. The gambling floor is the reason you walk in. The rest of the building is where the real money gets made. And here's the part that quietly runs in the background while all of that is happening. Every chip in a player's pocket is technically a liability on the casino's books. The moment you buy in, the casino owes you that value. It's sitting on their balance sheet as money they have to pay back. But not every chip comes back. Some get lost, some go home as souvenirs, some just disappear. Casinos estimate exactly how many chips will never be redeemed, and they book that portion as income. The accounting term for it is breakage. When a chip design gets retired or discontinued, the entire remaining unredeemed balance gets recognized as breakage income all at once. It's guaranteed profit that requires no gambling whatsoever, just the passage of time and a player who forgot their chips were in a jacket pocket. Now, the formula that actually runs the gambling side of the floor is something most people have never heard of, and it's more important than the house edge alone. Every casino game follows the same underlying equation. Average bet, multiplied by decisions per hour, multiplied by hours played, multiplied by house edge. That equals your theoretical win. That's it. That's the whole machine. And once you understand it, you understand why slot machines are the real workhorse of any casino floor. Slots carry a house edge of roughly 5 to 15%, compared to as low as 0.5% for blackjack when played correctly. They need no dealer, no pit boss oversight, and they let a single player cycle through hundreds of dollars an hour without slowing down. The product being sold is not the size of any one bet, it's time spent playing. The longer you sit, the more the math resolves in the casino's favor, and slots are engineered specifically to maximize that time. Multi-denomination slots were the top overall revenue generator on the Strip, with casinos winning $3.9 billion from those games in the most recent full year, an increase of nearly 14% from the prior year. That's not luck. That's the formula running exactly as designed. But here's where it gets interesting, because that formula has a weakness, and one gambler figured out how to exploit it. During the 2008 financial downturn, when Atlantic City casinos were desperate for high-volume play, a professional gambler named Don Johnson did something most people assume is impossible. He negotiated the house edge itself. He walked in and asked for a 20% rebate on losses over $500,000, plus favorable blackjack rules, a 6-deck shoe, a player-friendly soft 17 rule. The casinos, hungry for action, agreed. He then proceeded to win an estimated $15 million across the Tropicana, the Borgata, and Caesars in Atlantic City. He was eventually banned from blackjack at the Tropicana. The point isn't that the house edge is beatable. The point is that the edge is a negotiated business term, not a fixed law of physics. Casinos set it, and under the right conditions, they'll move it. That same logic is what makes the comp system make sense when you look at it from the right angle. Your free suite, your complimentary dinner, your VIP lounge access, none of that is generosity, it's accounting. Casinos typically allocate somewhere between 30 and 40% of a player's theoretical loss, not their actual loss, their projected statistical loss, back to them in perks. So if the math says you're expected to lose $10,000 over the course of your stay, the casino might hand you back about $3,000 in comps. It's a marketing budget priced against expected losses. The reward is calculated before you've even sat down. And here's the thing, if you run hot and win, you still get the comp, because it was built off the projection, not the result. The casino already priced in the variance, which brings us to the part of this business that can genuinely break a quarterly earnings report. High rollers, whales in industry language, can account for over 40% of gross gaming revenue in a market like Las Vegas or Macau, and when one of them has an extraordinary session, the math stops working the way it's supposed to. Australian media tycoon Kerry Packer once won roughly $33 million in a single baccarat session, a sum large enough to directly move the quarterly dividends of the casino's parent company. That's one person, one session, affecting what shareholders receive that quarter. The house edge behaves like a law of large numbers, but a handful of players are large enough to break it for an entire quarter. The flip side of that is a man named Terrence Watanabe. He lost an estimated $127 to $205 million in Las Vegas over a relatively short stretch. His losses alone accounted for roughly 5 to 6% of Harrah's, now Caesars, total annual gaming revenue for that year. To keep him playing, Caesars built him a personal loyalty tier called Chairman, ranked above their highest public tier, offering 15% cash back on table losses over $500,000 and $12,500 a month just for airfare. The company was later fined $225,000 for allowing him to continue gambling while heavily intoxicated. One gambler, roughly 5 to 6% of a multi-billion-dollar company's annual gaming revenue. And that brings us to the open question I planted at the start, the one about the biggest market in the world and how it almost collapsed overnight. Macau's casinos posted gross gaming revenue of roughly $30.8 billion in 2025, the highest annual total since 2019. For context, Las Vegas Strip gaming revenue over the same trailing period came in at around $8.8 billion. Macau runs at roughly 3 times the scale of Las Vegas, and for years, a huge portion of that was powered by a shadow system called junkets. Junket operators were essentially middlemen who recruited ultra-high net worth gamblers from mainland China, extended them credit, transported them to Macau, and took a commission on their losses. At their peak, junkets accounted for around 75% of Macau's VIP gambling revenue, with a single operator, Sun City, responsible for as much as a third of all Macau gaming revenue on its own. Then in November 2021, Sun City's founder was arrested on money laundering related charges, and the entire junket industry collapsed almost overnight. VIP's share of total Macau revenue fell from roughly 35 to 38% in 2019 down to about 15 to 16% just a few years later. Macau's VIP numbers are recovering. VIP baccarat revenue in 2025 was roughly $8.46 billion, nearly 25% higher than the year before. But VIP's share of total gaming revenue was about 27.5% in 2025, still far below the 46% share it held in 2019. The 6 major concessionaires delivered that growth despite the post-junket market structure, with the recovery reflecting a sustained pivot from VIP junkets to premium mass and mass segments, while benefiting from lower comp costs. The whole market restructured around a different customer base, and it worked, but it was a near-death experience for the industry's biggest players. Now, here's the last piece, and it's the one almost nobody gets right when they talk about how casinos actually manipulate behavior. You've probably heard that casinos pump extra oxygen into the air to keep you alert. That's a myth. Doing so would require enormous equipment, create a serious fire hazard, and be illegal. You've probably also heard the no clocks, no windows theory, that casinos remove all time cues to disorient you. That one is weaker than it sounds. A review of more than 15 psychological studies found no conclusive effect of windows or clocks on gambling behavior. Casino managers largely say windows are avoided because sunlight glares on cards and screens. What is actually evidence-backed is far more subtle: the deliberate use of sound design, lighting calibration, and floor layout. A designer named Bill Friedman pioneered maze-like casino walkways, deliberately disorienting visitors so that in searching for an exit, they pass more games. A later designer named Roger Thomas challenged that philosophy entirely at Wynn Properties, building open sightlines, high ceilings, and a playground aesthetic. Both are trying to solve the same problem. How do you keep someone in the building longer? One does it through confusion, the other does it through comfort. And the casinos that have implemented both approaches have data on which works better for which type of customer. So here's what actually owns a casino when you strip it all back. It's a hospitality and real estate business that uses gambling as its most powerful customer acquisition tool. Gaming makes up just over 26% of Strip revenue, and that's been true for 27 consecutive years. The formula that drives the gambling side is built on time, not bet size. The comps are a marketing budget calculated against your projected losses before you arrive. The house edge is negotiable under the right conditions. One whale can move a public company's quarterly earnings in either direction, and the world's biggest gambling market just survived the near total collapse of its primary distribution channel and came out the other side bigger than it was before. If this kind of behind-the-scenes business breakdown is what you're into, there's a whole library of videos on this channel that go just as deep. Drop a comment below with the industry you want us to tear apart next, and subscribe so you don't miss it when we do. The casino always wins, just not always at the tables.